Hey everybody, yes, welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the great Chris Schaefer, and this is the Paid Search Podcast. It's a podcast exclusively dedicated to growing Google Ads skills. Both Chris and I are professionals. We've been doing Google Ads management for years, and we get together once a week out of our busy schedule here on this show, and we constantly try to improve our skills. We think we know a lot, we get some good results, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to let our guard down. We don't want to lose that edge. We are always trying to learn as much as possible and stay humble, and that is what we're doing on the show. So Chris, thank you so much for being here. How's it going today?
No, thank you, Jason. Thank you for taking time out of your busy sales schedule, managing innumerable number of campaigns, as I know you do. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today. And I'm doing okay, doing good. Back to life as normal now. So here in Texas, we're going strong. Greatest state in the nation. Glad to be a part of it. And it's going to be a good day. So, I'm excited. I say this. I don't say this every time because I'm not always excited about the topic, but I am excited about today because, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to talk about is the number one question that people ask, other than, I'd say, okay, so it's number two. Number two question people ask. The first question is, how much should I spend? Right? You're talking to a new client. They say, how much should I spend? And you say, blah, 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 blah. And you don't really know, but you kind of give them an answer because they want an answer. Number two is, what do you think about my website? Should I do a landing page? Is my website okay? Should I adjust this? Should I change that? Do you like the color green or red for the button? And we're going to address that in a couple different episodes. The number one most requested thing is, let's talk about websites. So I think it's going to be a great episode. Jason has outlined a wonderful website checklist that we've brainstormed together.
Chris, like you're saying, it's the second most important topic probably, or at least I should say the second most frequent question we get in terms of important topic with Google Ads. There's plenty of important topics, search terms, bids, and all that. But of course, the website you take them to is, as we say, half the battle. And since it is the second most frequent question we get and a very important topic, I'm glad we waited 214 episodes to get to it. Right. So, Chris, usually I have a review of the week.
Oh, but we don't.
But no, not this week. I've decided to read almost kind of a testimonial I got from a client. They emailed me.
Oh, so it's a 5-star review for you exclusively. Nice.
Well, Chris, I'd appreciate it if you let me finish.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
So a client was sending me an email. We just started working together, and I have it printed here. And it's the email started off, Jason, when you decided to work with me, I felt like I got Mickey Mantle in the draft. Mm. And then the email went on, and we handled some business, and it was a great compliment to myself. But the reason I wanted to bring it up on this show is I wanted to tell you, Chris, I would have never ever gotten to that level of knowledge or skills if it wasn't for doing this podcast with you for the last 4 years. So thank you so much for doing this show with me and helping me grow my skills.
I agree. The proper phrase is iron sharpens iron. So yeah, I think the reason we both decided to do this is because we both saw each other's skills separately in businesses that we started independently and said, you know what, this guy seems like a peer, and I'd rather than just trying to steal all his clients, maybe I can just steal all of his knowledge. A much better long-term strategy, I would say. It's turned out much better that way. So I agree. Before we jump into the ultimate website checklist, I'm going to share something.
Oh, Chris, can I just read the title because I'm very proud of it.
Oh, go ahead.
And we'll make it clear for everyone what today's show is going to be about in the next couple parts. Episode 214, the ultimate website checklist for PPC. How to make the perfect website for unbelievable Google Ads performance. Part 1.
Wow.
It's very brief.
I don't think that's going to show up on anything in the entirety. But it'd be one of those scrolling things, like as you're listening to it, it'll just kind of scroll across the page.
I just wanted to hammer home exactly what we're going to do here today. Because I am proud of this list. And if you go down this list and if you do what we say, there's no guarantee Google Ads is going to work great for you. You still have to do the account right. That's the other 213 episodes. But in terms of having confidence that your website will get the job done, if you get quality traffic to it, I'm confident this is a conclusive list here.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let me give you guys a tip, a special bonus tip before we get in. I'm going to speak to you guys out there that have clients. You're an agency. You are a freelancer. You have clients in Google Ads. Okay, I'm going to speak to you guys because I know you listen. Big part of the show is people who have clients and want to get better, just like Jason and I who have clients. I'm going to tell you a tip about Optio. Okay, this is a tool that Jason and I have both used and we both like, and we endorse them because we think the tool is a great tool. We get offers from many sponsors, people that want to sponsor the show. We don't take them all, guys. It's not like Optio is the only person out there that's ever said, can we sponsor the show? We turn away a bunch of sponsors. We like Optio. We think it's a good tool and we believe in it. And I'm going to give you one example about one thing that we like about Optio. Scorecards. There's one thing that I get all the time from clients, and I hear people say, like, how are we doing? And usually my answer bores the heck out of them. After talking to them for 20 minutes straight, they say, oh, okay, well, all I really wanted to know is if our click-through rate went up, I'm like, oh, yeah, it went up. We're good. He's like, okay, thanks, bye. So a lot of times it's just they want a tangible record of, are we moving in the right direction? Is it improving? And scorecards is a tangible visual representation of the account. Is it in good shape? Is it improving overall? And this is the kind of thing that mimics what's in Google Ads. There's an improvements tab, and you can do that, but it takes into account other factors as well in this account performance scorecard. If you want to do this and use it to help in reporting, to communicate with a client the improvements that you're doing, say a visual representation of what you're doing on the campaign, use the scorecard system. It's a great way to communicate and to show the work that you're doing and communicate that you are progressing instead of giving them a 20-minute speech where they don't really care what you said. They just wanted to get a general message because they got stuff to do. They want to know, did my score go up from 76 to 96, on the overall scorecard? And if it did, there you go. You've given them that message. So if you want to try it out, Optio with the scorecard system, you can go to optio.com/PSP2. That's opteo.com/PSP2. You'll get a 2-month free trial. This is better than what you get if you just go to optio.com. And use the chat box down at the bottom right. Tell them that you're a Paid Search Podcast listener, and they'll give you the special offer exclusively for those that are subscribers of our show. So we thank them for their sponsorship. And now, drum roll, we're going to get into the ultimate checklist. That's the abbreviated title. I don't want to quote the whole title again, but that's the ultimate checklist for websites. Jason?
Thanks, Chris. And I like what you were saying about going on too long when a client just asks you one question. That's what I do on my sales calls. They'll be like, so Jason, what do you think we're going to see in our first, when we launch our campaign here? And then I just start talking. I know so much about Google Ads. I've seen so many different things. I walk them through the first 2 weeks. And then I tell them about what's going to happen at about 6 months. And then I tell them at about a year. And then I tell them at about 5 years what they're going to do when they want to revamp their campaign, how that process works. And then I go through all the questions they'll get when they'll give me when they get their monthly report. And then I'll answer those questions. And then I'll realize I have been talking for 17 minutes. And then I stop talking and they go, that's what you say.
I just wanted to know how many clicks you thought we'd get.
That hit home with me, Chris.
Yeah, it's a real thing. That's I've learned to avoid that over talking kind of thing. But yeah, all right. Well,
That's for sure when we do this podcast. And I'm like, right, Chris? And you're like, oh, yeah. I'm just kidding.
Let's move on, please.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so Chris, we're going to get into specific tips. We broke down the tips for the website. Again, these are not general website tips. We're not website people. We're not web designers. What we are marketers. We help people advertise and market their businesses. We take paid traffic to their websites. So that's where we're coming to this from in our perspective. We know we get good traffic, and it doesn't always lead to good results. And one of the problems is the website. If you take people to a website that's not relevant to the search, or a bad website, the great traffic we get is not going to perform right. So we're very focused on what works with websites when it comes to PPC, and that's where we're coming from. So Chris, we broke this down into 5 sections. We'll probably get through at least the first 2 today. We have our tips broken down into tech specs, the kind of behind the scenes technical stuff, tips based on conversions, conversion tracking friendly kind of topics or tips, visual tips, pictures, videos, logos, all that kind of stuff, content tips, the actual words on the page, what to put on your website, and then miscellaneous tips. And what we want to do is we want to hear from our audience. We want to hear from our Patreon Facebook group, our patrons. We do a Patreon show each week after the show. One of the Patreon perks is you get access to a private Facebook group for patrons of the show. And we want to hear from you guys, the professionals, and also business owners that are in there, to learn as much as possible. What are your website tips? What did you not hear over the first couple episodes that we'll go through? And we'll, on that third one, when we do miscellaneous, if we get some good tips in there from other people, we'll read those. If you have questions about websites when it comes to PPC based on this episode and the next episode, based on these tips, please send in your questions, paidsearchpodcast.com on the contact page, and we will answer some of those on this third part of the series. Now, those are our 5 way we broke down the tips here, Chris. Let's just first talk about, I want to get your thoughts on how important is a website to PPC, and I want to get your thoughts on this statement. I'm going to call it a dirty little secret. Google Ads managers, you and I and everyone that does this professionally, we can do a good job. We always do a good job. We're very focused on search terms, bids, all that kind of stuff. But have you experienced this? You set up a campaign, you do a good job. You're like, yes, this is great work. I did good work, but it's just kind of what we do every day. And then you hear from a client and they call you Mickey Mantle. They tell you you are the best thing since sliced bread. They try to marry you off their family members to you because they want you in their life forever. Chris, I've experienced this. I know you have. Yeah, they fall in love. They love you because it's nothing like they've ever experienced. They're getting business. So have you experienced this where you're like, okay, I did a good job, but man, this client is like in love with me. My thinking, the dirty little secret is we do a good job, but to get those unbelievable results, the websites make us look better than we actually are. It takes a great website. What are your thoughts on how important it is and how much better it can make the Google Ads Manager look?
Yeah, I totally agree. There are campaigns that I have that, are when people ask for, a screenshot or proof of, campaigns that you've worked on, or, show me an example. The ones that I go to are the ones that have really good websites because they get really good conversions, which we'll go through. That's our second point is talking about conversion tracking, because they are fire. I mean, they look great and they match that quality. But the one thing I'll say is, if I get a really good website and it doesn't have this other dirty little secret, that's the problem that I usually have. The other dirty little secret that I see is a good product or service that's unique enough or value adding enough, along with a good explanation, which is the good website.
Well, that's a good point.
So someone can have a solid website.
Take all our tips. It may not work because you got to have a good business.
Because I have some cookie cutter carpet cleaning, and they have, they do exactly what everyone else does. And they have some beautiful website, and broken, but in the end, they don't really offer anything different than anyone else. Their prices are not better, and they just kind of have generic carpet cleaning stuff. There's nothing special about them. that's the other dirty secret. So if you have something unique, which is what I'm going to assume we're going to be working with here, is you have something that's unique, that's outstanding, that's as an value add for someone, and you have a good website. That's the kind of success that is just outstanding, and it warrants screenshots and bragging, because you have conversion rates that are just phenomenal, and you have ROIs that are just, you don't even quote them to other clients because you don't want other people expecting that from you, because it's not.
Well, Chris,
normal.
you just came up with another tip. I just wrote it down for the content section. When we're talking about the text, you have to explain the value you add. You just can't say, I'm a carpet cleaner in Minneapolis. You have to explain what differentiates you. So we'll talk about that. So yeah, I guess our general point is, man, when you combine great Google Ads management, which again, that's what we do. We have confidence in our management style and our knowledge of the platform. When you combine that with an outstanding website, the results are amazing. And they're hard to put into words, because people go through their whole career spending money on marketing, spending money on cable TV. Okay, it worked a little, but yeah, that was a lot of money we spent. Going through multiple Google Ads managers, going through multiple digital people, all that kind of stuff. But when they finally see something work and they get the leads they wanted all month long, it's like a magical feeling. So, and again, it's Google Ads management, but it's also the website.
Run a radio ad campaign with a killer website. Why did you do that? There's no guarantee they're going to go to your website. They might just call the phone number they heard. Run a TV ad or a billboard with a killer website. There's no guarantee they're going to go to your website. They may just call the phone number. Run a Google Ads campaign where you have to click to take the next action. Guaranteed your money's going to pay off on a killer website. I mean, it's
another way to look at it, spinning it around. Market your company on radio. Advertise your company on TV. If you don't have a good website, it could work, because people aren't looking at your website. They're looking at your ads.
That's true.
But if you want to go down the Google Ads road, you better invest in your website, because you're taking people to your website, and it won't work well if you don't have a good website.
There you go.
Okay, so Chris, let's start with our tech specs here. These are website tips that are a little bit behind the scenes here. They're the technical stuff. So the first tip is a domain that makes sense. So Chris, I want to lay out a scenario. I was working with an attorney in Los Angeles a couple years ago. Los Angeles was in their domain name, and they were very enthused about the results that they had gotten from PPC, and they wanted to expand and advertise in other parts of California. The domain says Los Angeles in it. We're running ads in San Diego. We're running ads in Sacramento, all across the state. Mm-hmm. Explain to people how that could be a problem and where it could show up in the account as a problem.
Yeah.
And how much of a problem do you think it is? Yeah.
So the domain, I would say, is largely ignored by people if they're just clicking on an organic link or, something like that, because, for them, it may not make a difference because they're going to see title tags. But on a paid ad, this is not always the same, but specifically on a paid ad, that display URL, which is your domain, that's going to have that information in it, it's going to be very prominent. It's in a different color. It looks different than everything else, and it's on its own line by itself. So when someone's doing a search on Google, they're not looking for the perfect one. They're looking for reasons to eliminate the other ones to find the best one that they can find for that one search, right? So when you do a search for the shoes that you want, you don't try and find the perfect one first. You just try and find the one that doesn't match your criteria. And if you are showing Los Angeles, if your website says Los Angeles in it, and then the person's doing a search in San Diego, the very first disqualification would be, they're in Los Angeles. I don't want to click. This is not what I want. So they may click on your ad and spend your money and then determine that later because that's your domain name. They may determine that before they ever click, but immediately you have to remove a disqualification and anything in your domain that disqualifies the quality of what you can provide. is what you have to first eliminate. And this is a tactic that you apply in your ad copy. We talk about all the time. You can do this on purpose by putting a price point in your ad. Hey, you're selling fishing trips, to do something. Put a fishing trip price in your ad copy. This is a $10,000 trip. The cheapos are not going to click on it. The same thing goes for domains. If you put that in there, you're giving people a reason not to click on it. If you put something about location or some qualification in there that not everyone would want, then that's it. You're a car dealer. If you put BMW seller, BMW dealership, anybody who wants anything other than a BMW is not going to be interested in what you have in your ad copy, even if you sell other things.
Some of them end up advertising. They might have a thriving used car business that they want to advertise for. So you show up on other kinds of searches, but the domain still says BMW. Another example would be like a moving company. If you have the word cheap or affordable or something like that in your domain, because that's the way you started your business out years ago, but you've decided that's not what you do anymore. You want to look at bigger, more premium moves and charge a premium because you offer a premium service. You're sending the message with cheap in the domain, and don't forget the domain is the display URL. It shows up in the ad. So if you have Los Angeles in your domain, in your display URL, and you advertise across California, it'll still work. You'll probably get a lower click-through rate than you would otherwise, because some of those people in Sacramento, San Diego will see Los Angeles and go, oh, that's not for me. But people will still click. We have a great kind of theme on the show, Chris. We like to say people don't read the ads, and we're facetious about that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't read them too closely, is how it's better said. So it'll still work, but we're not talking about still working here. We're talking about these are tips to make an absolute awesome experience with Google Ads. And if your domain name says a different message than what you're advertising for, that'll hurt your click-through rate, that'll hurt your performance, and it won't be as good as it could be otherwise. One final one, Chris, a lot of people make subdomains when they advertise on PPC. Don't have a stupid subdomain. I see that all the time. Like an agency will put the word like, I don't know, just dumb PPC words in front of their domain.
Oh, but PPC.
That's a great one because
see it all the time.
Or they'll say like campaign 1 or PPC 1 because they're trying to organize their subdomains in their management.
Yeah.
Yes. and it's good for the PPC manager. They're trying to keep things organized, but that's not good for the search user. It's like, what? What does that mean? So have a domain that makes sense, especially if you're just starting out. You have control over your domain when you build out a website. Think about the domain a little bit in the sense of how it would look on PPC. So domains that make sense. The second one, Chris, proper page titles. And I'm not talking about content here. I'm not talking about words on the page. I'm talking about
backend,
the
metadata.
HTML.
Metadata.
Yeah, the meta title tag. It's an SEO term, the title tag. My thought here, Chris, is that anything with quality score should be qualified with, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is a hunch because we don't have the black box. I think a title tag that is not accurate to the page, like an example, I had an orthodontist once. I did a search for them, and on their organic listing, the title tag said homepage instead of orthodontist in Miami or whatever their brand is. So I told them you should probably make this more accurate to your page instead of just generic homepage. My theory is, and I want to run this by a fellow expert, my theory is if you have a weird old template with your title tag that said homepage or something like that, or isn't even accurate, it could have Latin words or whatever when you put on a WordPress thing, I think that hurts quality score. If you have some weird title tag that does not match the content on the page, from PPC, again, people aren't going to really see this when they do a search, but from PPC, I think it hurts quality score.
Yep.
Would you say I'm crazy here, or does that make sense to you?
No,
hunch.
I absolutely agree. I think this is something I send a screenshot because most people get confused. Just to be clear, title tag is what shows up when you open it's the words that show up when you open a tab. So open 3 tabs with 3 different websites, and that the name of that tab is what that title tag is for that page title. So you're exactly right. I absolutely want that. And the biggest thing that I see happening all the time is a service page, and they name the page services instead of something specific, to what they do. So optimize. I think SEO and PPC go hand in hand for things like title tags and metadata. I absolutely agree.
It's all Google.
Yeah, it's all Google because Google wants the same thing, whether it's SEO or PPC. They want a good user experience, and you do that by being very explicit about what you're offering on that page. Be very clear about your messaging, and you will win both in SEO and PPC.
We know landing page experience or whatever it's called is part of quality score. The website is part of quality score, big part of it. Say you have two advertisers, both carpet cleaners in Minneapolis. They have the exact same level of quality content on their website, the exact same level. But one says homepage in their title tag or some Latin words or something straight out of the box they never edited in their title tag behind the scenes. The other one says Minneapolis Carpet Cleaners or their brand name and then Minneapolis Carpet Cleaners. Don't you think it's logical to think if they're the exact same on the page, the one with the better title tag sends more quality relevancy signals to Google and they'll get a little edge in quality score?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Yeah. And for anyone listening, I want to throw this resource out there. If you Google Moz title tag, MOZ title tag, the first thing that should show up is Title Tags 2020 SEO Best Practices, Moz, M-O-Z. It's a website. They have a lot of SEO information. Chris, when I throw out the word title tag to business owners out there, they may have no clue what we're talking about here. Yeah. So I want to throw that out. Moz, M-O-Z, title tag, that you'll find a good resource explaining what that is in detail. Now, Chris, mobile version of the website versus desktop. Have you ever run into a client where you start running ads, you built it on desktop, their website looks great, and then you realize that they don't have a mobile site and you're sending 70% of the traffic that happens to be on mobile and it's not converting? Have you ever run into that?
Yeah. For me, there's two things that compound here for this issue. Number one is that, just like Jason said, mobile nowadays, for all things being equal, mobile represents a higher percentage of the traffic than desktop does. There are some industries where that's not true, but most of the time, mobile represents a higher percentage. So that's a problem. Number two problem is if they're on mobile, the best call to action is a phone number. So if you have a desktop that doesn't have a clickable number or doesn't have some kind of responsive system where you can reliably copy and paste the number and then paste it into your phone, because of the way it's in there, it's on top of an image and you just can't select it. I mean, have you ever gone in and swapped back and forth between, like dialing on your phone and dialing on copying a phone number over, 3 numbers at a time? I mean, stuff like that. That's ridiculous. You're just asking for someone to just say, forget it. I don't want to call them. I'll go somewhere else. So absolutely, mobile is an issue. And the third issue is mobile phones do not respond and load pages in the same UI, the same interface that desktops do. So that compounds and has issues with speed. When you are using a desktop that has higher processing power, more memory than a phone, then you'll see that the page speed, the page load times for a mobile site will be different than a desktop. And the reason for that is because there's different technology being used. So you have to treat it differently. Sometimes you have to compress those images further because it's using, wireless data, which might be a little bit slower than Wi-Fi, things like that. So mobile version has many issues that can hurt you in speed and volume of traffic and call to action are 3 examples of that.
And another tip about mobile is there's pretty much, I think, on phones, you have Safari and you have Chrome. And sometimes the code is a little bit different the way Safari and Chrome look at code. So the time I've seen that is with click-to-call phone numbers. Sometimes I've done like the little TEL code when I'm making something, a page, and it's clickable. The phone number is clickable and click to call on one of the browsers. Then I tried it on the other one. It doesn't work. And it doesn't recognize it if you do unless you do like tell and then some other little thing that's a little different. And then it works on both. So you want to test out your site both on Chrome and on Safari on mobile, and you just want to look at it. And for professionals out there, when you're building a campaign, make sure you look at their site on mobile before you launch, because sometimes you'll run into it where it just doesn't look good or parts of the page are cut off, and you want to take care of that before you start advertising on mobile, because you can get into, if one of the part of the page is just totally cut off on mobile, probably hurts quality score. We don't know that because we don't control quality score in terms of, we don't know the black box we always talk about, but we don't even need to say the word quality score, because it's the same thing as user experience. If your page is cut off, and your bounce rate is going to be higher, your conversion rate is going to be lower, your cost per conversion is going to be higher. So you want to definitely check both. Now, Chris, kind of goes hand in hand with that, and this is probably the biggest tech spec tip. Like, yeah, a SEO title tag that makes sense to the page to get a little bit boost with quality score. It's a good tip. But the biggest tip, I think, that actually like makes the most difference is speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, speed. Oh, sorry, I had a little flashback. It's speed, Chris. This is the most important technical thing. Let me put it this way, Chris. You get on those internets, right? You do a Google search. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of options.
Yeah.
And it ain't just limited to Google searches. I mean, you get on that internet, there is a lot of options. Anything your depraved human caveman mind can think of, you can find online. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And so people have a lot of options. And so if you go to the site and then it doesn't load, or it takes 3 seconds or 2 seconds, that's still too long. Like, people are not going to sit around for that. They're going to bounce back to Google. So what do you do to test speed? For what I do, I just do a little human test. I just go to their site and see if it's loading fast, basically.
I don't do that. For those of us that
you worry about the internet speed wherever you do it, kind of thing.
It doesn't matter what page I go to. Everything takes about 10 to 15 seconds to load anyway, because I don't have a reliable internet source way out here in the country. But so I don't do that. But I use Page Speed Insights. That's one word, Page Speed, and then Insights.
What a nice little digital marketing professional here. Here's my beef.
It's a Google tool.
Insights,
just Google it. Page Speed Insights.
Okay. Yeah. Page Speed Insights. And you can put in a domain, and then they have a tab for mobile and a tab for desktop, and they'll give you a score. 0 to 100, and they'll tell you if it's good, medium, or bad, and they'll give you some
compressed images. It's stuff like that. That's what will kill it.
All right, hot shot. Here's my beef. Okay. I just put in the biggest newspaper in the country. They have a fantastic website. Their website is fast. They've put so much money into their website. They have a million subscribers paying them money every month to use their website. Like, their website's perfect, okay? Mm-hmm. And I put it in there on desktop, they get a 48, which is red, so bad. And on mobile, they get a 22, which is red and bad. So what I don't want to do here, Chris, is to send business owners, local business owners, small business owners, to Page Speed Insights who have a fast, normal working page, and then get overwhelmed when they see red there and they see all these suggestions that they're never going to be able to fix because they don't know what a reduced JavaScript execution time means. Okay? My point is, if this biggest website in the country, one of the biggest, most popular, gets a red score, what is the random small business company out there to do? So, but I get your point. If you just test the speed, just testing the site, using it yourself, and the internet happens to be slow where you do it, that's also not going to give you a good representation. So this is an unanswerable question here. I guess you would just have to try it on a lot of different locations, I guess, or do Page Speed Insights and go to town, have fun doing all this stuff when the biggest website in the country also gets a bad score. I have beef with this one, Chris. It's very frustrating.
I agree.
Very frustrating.
Well, let me help your frustration a bit, because I'll tell you, time to first paint, the first contextual paint, that is a score that you can see on Google Ads, or the Page Speed Insights. You can see first contextual paint and then last contextual paint. So what it tells you is when the first things start to show up on the page, that's often something I look for, because it tells me, I looked at somebody's site the other day, it was like 10 seconds before it showed up.
I will revert to the old days when I throw a pen. You know why I will revert? Because it says on mobile, on this number one website in the country, it says first contextual paint 3.4S, which I'm assuming means 3.4
That's good.
seconds.
Yeah. That's good.
Wait, is that saying it takes 3.4 seconds for a site to load? Or is first contextual paint different than a site loading?
No, first contextual paint means that you start seeing things popping up on the screen.
So it takes 3.4 seconds for the biggest website in the country to load?
Yeah, I start raising red flags whenever it's like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. That's where I'm like, something's wrong here.
But that's not accurate though, because I go to their website right now on my
Page Speed Insights is not
split second.
Is not actually having to do with how fast the page loads, because you could have 100 gigabytes down and it's way faster than if you have 2 gigabytes or 1 megabyte down, something like that. So it's not necessarily real-time metrics of how fast it loads. It's all in relation. It's all relative to, codes and things like that. So I would say that it's not necessarily.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
So if I go to Page Speed Insights and I put in a site, it's very frustrating for me.
We'll come back to it. Let's go with.
But bottom line, if you have a slow website, bottom line, then it's not going to work good for Google Ads. You have to have a website that loads. Let's put this word: normal. It has to be normal.
Sure. Yes.
Oh, wow, Chris. No, this is what we do. We did it yesterday. We had a drag out fight. We cursed at each other. We both threatened to quit the show just to come up with one episode. Yeah, it got ugly.
True.
But what came out of that?
This topic.
It was so gold.
Yeah.
This series came out of it. So here's what's going to come out of this discussion. Page Speed Insights. It's a little confusing for people like me, at least. And then you do the opposite test, which is just using it yourself. Well, then you worry about the internet speed of that location. Here's how you tell if you have a slow website. Go to your website and then go to 5 other top websites in the country. The biggest news websites, the biggest sports websites, whatever you want to do, Google itself. And how does your website compare user experience wise to those other websites that are not slow? You go to Google and you do a search, it's not slow.
Right.
Okay. You go to the biggest news website in the country, it's not slow. It works as fast as possible. But if your internet speed is slow at your location, it'll be slow on both of them. So you can see how you stack up versus big, huge companies, and that'll tell you if you have a good speed or not. And you don't have to worry if your overall area location speed is just slow overall. So I think that's a good tip.
All right, last one. I'll take ownership of this one because this is more of a personal opinion, but I am not a fan of website building softwares that prepackage the whole thing into click here, move this, add this box here, put an arrow here, pop this text thing in here. Very simple WYSIWYG type of interfaces that are, famed for their simplicity, for their ability. If you have no coding ability and you don't know anything about websites, you can make one too. That kind of thing. And you're going to try and fit this ultimate checklist into a website that is very simple, a website building platform. It's not going to work. You're not going to be able to hit all the things that we're talking about. So that's my main thing. And if you nail me down and say, well, Chris, what should I use? My favorite, and Jason and I, we were agreeing on what a perfect website looked like. I investigated, and that website you sent me is running on WordPress. WordPress, I would say, is one of the most diverse platforms. And if you want to have a website that you can do all these things and have a very dynamic experience where you can hit all these ultimate checklists, really a custom-built WordPress site is where I would start. That's it.
Chris, the cool thing about WordPress, they have themes and all that. It'll get you maybe like 80% of the way there.
Sure. Yeah.
But even that, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, I think, to me, requires some kind of professional work. So I think a great kind of medium to look for is something that should get you to almost there. It'll lay things out nice and you can edit it and all that. But haven't you seen this yourself, Chris? If you have a website and it's like a client's website and you're telling them to make changes and they're like, okay, I can log in and make changes. But then you throw a professional their way, and that professional just gets in there for 2 hours, and it's just like, hey, here's a list of what we want done. We have no idea how to do it, even with all these customization things. Just knock it out, and we'll pay you some money. I think that's such a great combination. The stuff you can control, like a theme and all that, but get a professional in there for a couple hours, knock out your wish list, and it just takes it to the next level. That's what I've seen with the small businesses I work for.
For sure.
So, Chris, now we're talking conversion tracking.
Okay. Yeah, because this is a long section. Yeah. I feel like maybe we should do half the section. Maybe. I mean,
no. I feel like people love this show. I feel like you have a fetish for short podcasts. You must have some kind of. I think you know how you open like someone's closet up and they have a shrine to someone that they stalk, and it's like, whoa, this person's a freak. I think your version of that, because I can only see one side of the camera. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea if we spun that camera around 180 degrees and saw what you're looking at. I think you have a whiteboard that's about 12 feet by 12 feet, and you try to listen to 200 podcasts every single day. And when you get one done, you listen to it on 3x speed. And when you get it done, you check it off. And you have some kind of weird fetish about checking it off and getting through your list. No, Chris, we're going deep on this one. I'm dragging you into deep waters.
Oh my gosh.
And we're going to talk about conversion tracking here. So again, this is somewhat, now we're getting into content on the page, but let's kick it off here, Chris. Let me run you through a classic problem. Phone number tracking, website call conversion tracking. No, I'm going to make an executive decision here. You can't handle deep waters. I saw what I just saw on my screen, and this series, this content is too good to have what I just saw representing it. So if my podcast partner here is telling me that the waters are too deep, he's flailing, he needs a little help. We're gonna get him some help. We're gonna yank him out of the water here, and we're gonna bail him out. So, Chris, get us out of the show here, and then we'll move over to Patreon. And then when we come back next week, we will go super deep about conversion tracking. And Chris, I got to say, I love it. You know, we thought we were going to knock out 2 parts on one episode, but I love how deep we're going.
Yeah.
This truly will be the number one resource to help business owners with getting the right website for PPC. And if it takes multiple episodes to do that and do it right, then I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. Well, guys, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Optio.com/PSP2 offers a 2-month free trial to try out their software. And particularly this week, I'm calling out you guys that have clients, okay? I talk about people that manage their own campaigns all the time, but this week I'm giving you guys that have clients and have those talking points with clients. I'm talking about how they have these wonderful built-in scoring system so that you can communicate a win to a client. The scorecards are really good, and it's a third-party system. It's not Google telling you that you're doing a good job, because that's kind of a biased opinion, right? Google says you're doing a good job, but what's their decision on that? Instead, this is a third-party decision. It's a scorecard, and it's a great way for you to be able to decide how to improve your campaign. You can give that to your clients. So check it out for Optio.com/PSP2. You'll get a 2-month free trial, and there's a reason that Optio has been a continued sponsor for many, many months. We really like their software.
Thanks, Chris. And we're going to jump over to Patreon now. It's our after show. We do it every week. You can sign up for $31 a month if you want audio, and then if you want to do video, it's $62 a month.
I get you.
Oh, sorry.
I see what you're doing.
Sorry. I see it. Sorry. I was just fantasizing in front of everybody right now. No, it's we screwed ourselves over. We hit the price too low, and there's something about Patreon that makes it difficult to change the price, because then people got to re-sign up and all that stuff. So it's $2 a month if you want audio, $4 a month for video. And we talk about
the sadness in your eyes when you say $4. $2.04. It's like Jason made that one decision. And it's like, now we're going to have to stretch this thing out for like 10 years before it becomes a profitable outlet for us to push. But that's okay. We're here for the long term.
Yeah. So sign up, please. So, what we do over there, we talk about Google Ads, we talk about business, we talk about life. We wrap up our little recording session, and you can find it at paidsearchpodcast.com. Click the link to the Patreon page. Chris, I have a little tip for people in terms of how to deal with unnatural dips in traffic volume when something like this pandemic happens, and then what do you do when it starts coming back, because the country is starting to come back, and we can all see it. The traffic just on the road is up. More businesses are open. There's more searches going on for a lot of our clients. How do you adjust back to that? So I've got some thoughts on that. It's very simple, but there's one thing you want to look for. So we'll be talking about that, and we'll be having a good old time. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.